Many different muscles are taken into account when judging the lower body in bodybuilding, like quadriceps, hamstrings, glutes, and calves, but the quads are arguably the most important leg muscle in professional bodybuilding. Here are the top quads in bodybuilding history. Number 10. Erik Fankhouser. In the calf department, nobody can rival Erik Fankhouser, not even Mr. Olympia winners. Erik Fankhouser had massive legs as a whole, not just eye-popping calves. His quads, for example, had so much meat on them that they looked freakishly big. You'll also notice that unlike many bodybuilders, Fankhauser's legs didn't have overly dominant abductors, which made his quad sweep look even more compelling. Number 9. Mustafa Mohammad. In his prime, former professional bodybuilder Mustafa Mohammad had some of the biggest bodybuilder legs to ever walk the Olympia stage. The Jordanian-born Mohammad rose as high as he could in non-IFBB contests, winning 2 world titles in 1992 at age 26. Although he has downsized considerably since his competition days, Mohammad had undeniably colossal quads. While his legs weren't the most conditioned, he always brought plenty of mass to the stage. In his stage pictures, you can see that his huge adductors were fighting each other for breathing room. Mustafa Mohammad's teardrop actually had great definition in addition to masses of muscle tissue. It's just a shame that his outer sweep was often less defined. Number 8. Cutler. You can't talk about the world's biggest thighs without mentioning 4-time Mr. Olympia winner Cutler. His teardrop muscle, which is known as the vastus medialis, was absolutely eye-popping and looked like a full 4-headed quadricep muscle by itself. And then there's his outer sweep. While Cutler didn't have the biggest quad sweep ever, he certainly had some of the most separated and detailed quads that the sport of bodybuilding has ever seen. 19-year-old Cutler won the heavyweight class at the NPC Teen Nationals in 1993. That was only the start. Over the years, Cutler has won 3 Arnold Classics and 8 other titles. Cutler always had big legs, but it was his meticulous approach to leg training that really sculpted his show-winning legs. Performing 30 sets or more per session wasn't uncommon for Cutler, and each of those expertly executed sets was always with a highly specific purpose in mind. Number 7. Paul Dimeo. Paul Dimeo is one of the only bodybuilders who competed in the 80s and 90s to make it onto this list, and for good reason. Dimeo's quads had one of the most impressive sweeps of a professional bodybuilder. His outer thighs were so big that they practically looked swollen. In this sense, Dimeo's quads were very similar to those of current competitor Big Rami. Dimeo's gargantuan legs were the first things people noticed when he burst onto the scene in 1991, so much so that he earned the nickname Quadzilla. His thighs were so thick in the outer and lower regions that it looked like he was smuggling footballs under his skin. He was determined to not let his wheels overpower his upper body. Paul Dimeo had some of the freakiest bodybuilder thighs of his era, and yet his physique didn't lose its aesthetic appeal. Number 6. Branch Warren. If you want to see some of the most vascular, detailed, and yet truly massive quads, then look no further than Branch Warren's gargantuan thighs. He is an American professional bodybuilder from Texas. Branch has won numerous professional contests in his bodybuilding career, and so is a highly awarded athlete. Including the 2011 and 2012 Arnold Classic, one of the world's biggest bodybuilding events, Branch had crazy calves and huge hamstrings too, but it was his quads that really stole the show. And that's not a surprise, considering the intensity of his leg workouts. In order to sculpt his huge bodybuilder quads, Branch Warren typically performs 30 to 40 rep leg extensions at the start of every lower body workout. Number 5. Ben Pakulski. The average bodybuilder would do just about anything to have legs like Ben Pakulski. Ben the Pac-Man Pakulski is an IFBB professional bodybuilder and champion from Toronto, Canada. He's known by many as the most successful bodybuilder to ever come out of Canada. Growing up, Ben was very passionate about playing sports and being generally active. At 15 years old, he started lifting weights and eventually became a gym rat, finding a professional trainer with the help of his father. After starting a degree in kinesiology, Ben embarked on a bodybuilding career that would see him rapidly enter the professional ranks. He appeared at the Mr. Olympia and won a number of IFBB competitions. In his prime, Ben Pakulski had some of the biggest bodybuilder legs of his era, and perhaps the most detailed pair of quads on stage. In addition to his incredible lower body genetics, Pakulski is renowned for his thoughtful, scientific approach to training, something which undoubtedly helped him to bring up his upper body towards the end of his career, which used to lag far behind his legs. If this list was purely about the calves, Pakulski would be in the top 3 for sure, considering that his calves are bigger than some people's thighs. Number 4. Greene. Greene rose from underdog to top dog by winning the 2009 Arnold Classic, The mystery of the Greene machine, much like the man himself, has only grown bigger with time. Before his 19th birthday, he turned pro with a natural organization and held the distinction of being the youngest natural professional bodybuilder in the world. Kai Greene has some of the most unique and distinct quads in bodybuilding. Even if you saw his quads among 100 other pairs, you'd still be able to see his sliced and diced quad sweep without any trouble. His quads measure 33 inches around and are the product of many years of perfectly executed leg workouts. You'll never see the predator half-repping on the leg press or sacrificing his form to set new PRs. As a bodybuilder, Kai Greene controls the weights and uses them as if he's a sculptor chiseling away at a block of wood trying to sculpt the perfect lower body. Number 3. Ronnie Coleman. According to many online sources, in his prime, Ronnie Coleman's legs were as big as Big Rami's, a mammoth 36 inches. When you add in his show-winning quad vascularity and impressively etched-out thigh striations, you can see why the 8-time Mr. Olympia is a top 3 contender for the best legs in bodybuilding. Unlike some of the other athletes on this list, Coleman's legs weren't overly dominant either. Coleman's upper body was so massive that even though he had some of the largest thighs ever recorded, his legs didn't dwarf the likes of his chest and back one bit. Coleman was also known for his incredible feats of leg strength. He could squat 800 pounds and do leg presses with more than 2,000 pounds, so his impressive quads certainly weren't just for show. Number 2. Big Rami. The athlete with the biggest legs in bodybuilding history is definitely Egyptian bodybuilder Mahmoud Elsbieh, who goes by the fitting name of Big Rami. While Rami may not have the leanest legs or the most detailed thighs, he definitely has the biggest quads in the world at a colossal 36 inches. Big Rami has the largest quads of any professional bodybuilder, strength athlete, or human. If you weren't into bodybuilding, then you'd be forgiven for thinking that Rami's legs were photoshopped. While his legs are obviously genetically blessed to an extent, Rami still trains his legs exceptionally hard and heavy, noting that high reps especially work wonders for building the quads. On the other hand, some bodybuilding commentators have expressed their belief that Rami's quads are actually too big and thus make his upper body, and especially his calves, look smaller than it is. But in the sport of bodybuilding, having too much mass is definitely a luxury problem. Shows are not lost because your quads are too big. They're lost because you didn't have the combination of size, symmetry, detail, etc. Number 1. Tom Platz. It is no surprise who sits at number 1, the one man who made the pain of leg training look easy. He developed one of the most brutal leg training protocols which still scares but produces results. We are talking about the quad father, Tom Platz, who built the best legs in bodybuilding history. Though Tom could never win the Mr. Olympia title, no one has been able to match the sheer size, muscle density, and cross-striated definition of his legs. What makes Tom's legs so unique is the sheer fullness in his quads, thick hamstrings, and unreal conditioning. You can see every head of the quadricep muscle in his legs. Ironically, Tom was once known as the chicken leg guy, as he was born with a lower spine complication that inhibited him from squatting and doing sufficient leg training. But little did he know he will be forever known for his legs. In addition to measuring a tape-tearing 30 inches, Platz's thighs and adductors has so much separation and detail that you'd be forgiven for thinking that the quadriceps were a 12-headed muscle. Platz was known for his incredible training intensity, which included feats as impressive as a 500-pound squat for 23 reps. How many current Olympia competitors could do that? Platz arguably has the best quads in bodybuilding history when you factor in their symmetry, separation, and proportion to his other leg muscles. That's all for this video, folks. We'll see you another time.